The stage stopped at sunset, dust settling gold in the last light. Caroline Fletcher stepped down with nothing but a carpet bag and a heart braced for disappointment. Am I? She'd traveled 1,000 miles on promises written in careful script, answered an advertisement for a wife, and now faced the transaction she'd agreed to with eyes open. A child bounded from the porch before Caroline's boots touched solid ground. You're here. Papa said you'd come today. The girl 9 years old. All dark braids and gap-toothed smile seized Caroline's free hand. I'm Emma Morrison. Are you really going to be my new mama? Caroline's throat tightened. She'd expected a man, a deal, a bed she'd share from duty, not this bright-faced hope, this immediate affection. Emma, let the lady breathe. The voice came low and steady. Caroline looked up at the man on the porch. David Morrison stood tall in the fading light, hat in hand, watching her with quiet eyes, 40 perhaps, weathered by work and weather, prosperous from the look of his well-kept ranch, a widower. His letter had said, a father needing help raising his daughter. Mr. Morrison, Caroline straightened her travel-stained dress. I'm grateful for the passage money. I'll work hard to earn my keep. David. He descended the steps, stopped a respectful distance away. Just David. You must be exhausted. Emma, help Miss Fletcher with her things. Inside. The house spoke of comfort without ostentation. Clean floors, sturdy furniture, lamps already lit against the gathering dark. Emma chattered about everything and nothing, while Caroline catalogued her new circumstances. This was better than she'd feared. Worse. In a way easier to steel yourself against meanness than kindness. At the top of the stairs. Caroline cleared her throat. I should know where you'd like me to sleep. David moved past her to the first door, opened it, pulled back the blanket on a wide bed with clean white sheets. Right here. I'll take the barn. Caroline blinked. That's your room. It's the most comfortable bed in the house. You paid my passage. This is your home. She heard her voice sharpen with confusion. I came here to be your wife, not your guest. David's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes gentled. You've traveled 1,000 miles on faith alone. You deserve comfort and time to decide if this arrangement suits you. No obligations until you're ready. The words hit Caroline like physical touch. She'd prepared for demand, for awkward claiming of what he'd purchased. This unexpected dignity left her speechless. I don't understand, she managed. Nothing to understand. David set her bag inside the door. Take the time you need. If this doesn't suit you, I'll pay your passage wherever you want to go. No hard feelings either way. Emma tugged Caroline's sleeve. Papa keeps his promises. He's the best papa in the whole world. Of course, then, Caroline looked at this man offering what no one had offered her in years' choice. Real choice. Freely given. Her hands trembled on the carpet bag handle. I'll take the guest room, she said quietly. Neither your bed nor the barn. If that's acceptable. Sedens. David's slight smile reached his eyes. More than acceptable. I hoped you'd feel comfortable enough to choose. He showed her the guest room down the hall, smaller, simpler, but clean and warm. Emma brought her extra blankets and talked about the chickens while David withdrew, his boots quiet on the stairs. That night, Caroline sat on the narrow guest bed and listened to Emma's laughter through the wall, David's low voice reading bedtime stories. She touched the simple quilt and thought one word. Tentative as first thaw. Maybe. Morning came cold and clear. Caroline woke to unfamiliar silence, dressed quickly, found her way downstairs. David sat at the kitchen table with ledgers and coffee, already working though dawn had barely broken. "You're up early." He rose, gestured to the pot on the stove. "Help yourself." "I'm used to early." "I told them." Caroline poured coffee, grateful for the warmth. "On a farm. There's always work before sunrise. This is a ranch, but the principle holds." David returned to his seat, closed the ledger. Emma sleeps late when she can. School doesn't start for another hour. They sat in awkward silence, strangers sharing space. Caroline studied him over the rim of her cup. His hands showed work calloused, strong, careful with the delicate china. His face showed grief weathered into quiet strength. "Your letter said your wife passed 3 years ago." Caroline ventured. "Fever. Quick and cruel." David stared into his coffee. "Emma was 6. Still asks for her mama sometimes. Mostly when she's sick or scared. I'm sorry." "So was I." "Am I—" He met her eyes. "But sorry doesn't raise a child alone. Emma needs more than I can give her." "You seem to be doing fine." "Fine isn't the same as whole." The words settled between them, honest and heavy. Caroline recognized the truth in them. She'd been fine for years. Fine wasn't the same as whole. Emma's feet thundered on the stairs, breaking the moment. She burst into the kitchen, nightgown flying, and launched herself at Caroline with a hug that nearly knocked the coffee cup flying. "You're still here. I dreamed you left." Caroline steadied herself, caught off guard by the fierce affection. "I'm still here." "Can I show you the chickens and the garden? Papa says I can teach you everything about the ranch." "Ate after breakfast in school." David interjected. "Miss Fletcher needs time to settle." "I day." "Caroline." She corrected softly. Just Caroline. Over breakfast eggs and biscuits, Emma helped make they establish the rhythm. David would work the ranch. Emma would attend the small schoolhouse 2 miles down the road. Then there's there one was shad. Caroline would learn the household, the land, the life. No pressure, no expectations. Weeks to decide if this suited her. "And if it doesn't," Caroline asked, "then I keep my word. Passage wherever you want to go. Enough money to start fresh." Emma's face crumpled. "But you have to stay. You just have to." "Emma," David's voice held gentle warning. "We talked about this. Miss Caroline chooses for herself. Nobody chooses for her." The child subsided, but her eyes pleaded. Caroline felt the weight of that hope, the responsibility of disappointing it. After David left for the day's work and Emma departed for school with her slate and primer, Caroline explored the house, clean but Spartan, functional but lacking warmth, a man and child managing alone, competent but incomplete. She found herself in the kitchen, hands moving without conscious thought. By the time Emma returned that afternoon, Caroline had baked bread, started stew, organized the pantry. Emma skidded to a stop, inhaling deeply. "It smells like home." Caroline wiped flour from her hands. "You promised to show me the chickens." Outside, Emma transformed into eager teacher. She showed Caroline the henhouse, the feed schedule, the garden plot waiting for spring. She talked about her mama's flowers, her papa's patience, The loneliness of being the only child on a ranch with no neighbors for miles. Do you get lonely? Emma asked, scattering corn for the chickens. Sometimes, Caroline admitted. Everyone does. Not anymore, though. Now you have us. Aishkab. Emma said it with such certainty, such innocent faith. Caroline's chest tightened. She'd come here expecting a transaction. This child offered belonging like it was simple, like love was easy. That evening at supper, Emma monopolized conversation. David listened with quiet attention, occasionally meeting Caroline's eyes across the table with something like apology for his daughters. Exuberance, but Caroline didn't mind. The chatter filled spaces that had been silent too long. When Emma finally climbed the stairs to bed, David cleared the dishes. She's already attached to you. I hope that's not uncomfortable. It's unexpected, Caroline said carefully. But not uncomfortable. Good. He paused. Hands in dishwater. Take all the time you need. There's no rush for anything. In the guest room that night, Caroline heard Emma's laughter through the wall. David's voice reading about knights and dragons. She touched the simple quilt and let herself think it again. Less tentative this time. Maybe. The first week passed in small revelations. Caroline learned the land's rhythms when the frost melted, which chickens laid best, how Emma liked her eggs. She learned David's patterns, early rising, quiet competence, the way he listened more than he spoke. She learned loneliness could live in a house with 3 people if they didn't know how to reach each other. Yet Sunday morning brought church. Emma insisted Caroline wear her best dress, brushed Caroline's hair until it shone, chattered about introducing her to everyone. David waited by the wagon, hat brushed clean, looking uncomfortable in Sunday clothes. The small church stood white against brown hills. Families clustered outside, children running between wagons. Caroline felt every eye turn as David helped her down, Emma clinging to her hand. That's the new Mrs. Morrison. Someone whispered, Mail order. Another voice added, not unkindly but stating fact. David's hand found the small of Caroline's back, steady and claiming in a way that made the whispers die. Shall we inside? They sat in the Morrison pew, Emma between them, swinging her legs, beaming at anyone who looked their way. The Reverend preached about faith and new beginnings. Caroline tried to listen, but kept thinking about her old life. She'd left Philadelphia 3 weeks ago, left the boarding house where she'd worked since her family died of influenza 2 winters past. In Dankerschwart. Left the city that held nothing but memories of loss and the slow grinding poverty of a woman alone. When David Morrison's advertisement appeared, widower rancher seeking wife. Must love children. Respectability guaranteed, she'd answered on impulse born of desperation. She hadn't expected respect. Hadn't expected to be given choices. After service, Emma dragged her to meet the schoolteacher, the storekeeper's wife. The other ranch families. They were kind, curious, reserving judgment. David stayed close, answering questions about the ranch, deflecting anything too personal about their arrangement. Chatting saw nigh. On the ride home, Emma fell asleep against Caroline's shoulder. She doesn't usually take to strangers. David said quietly, not since her mama died. I'm not sure I count as a stranger anymore. No. He glanced at her. Something unreadable in his expression. I don't think you do. That afternoon, while Emma napped, Caroline found herself on the porch with David. He mended tack with steady hands while she shelled peas for supper. Why did you do it? She asked. The advertisement? I mean, you could have hired help. tried that. Emma needed more than hired help. She needed... He paused, choosing words carefully. She needed what I couldn't give her alone. And you thought a stranger could provide it. I thought the right woman could. Someone who understood loss. Someone who needed a fresh start as much as we did. I calm. He set down the bridle, met her eyes. Someone who deserved a chance at something better. Caroline's hands stilled in the pea basket. You know nothing about what I deserve. I know you answered honestly. No false promises. No pretending. Just a woman willing to travel 1,000 miles on hope. His voice dropped. That takes courage I respect. The words settled between them, heavy with implication. Caroline looked at this man who'd given her dignity when he could have demanded submission, who offered choice when he could have claimed ownership. I'll stay, she said quietly. For now, to see if this can work. That's all I ask. That evening, Emma woke from her nap to find them working side by side, Caroline cooking, David setting the table at her direction. The child watched from the doorway, something like wonder on her face. Over supper, Emma asked, Are you happy here? Caroline considered the question seriously. I'm not unhappy. That's more than I've been in a while. Papa says not unhappy is where happy starts. David smiled. Rare and genuine. Sometimes your papa is right. After Emma went to bed, Caroline stood at her guest room window. Below, David crossed to the barn with a lantern, keeping his promise to sleep there as long as she needed. She watched his light disappear into the darkness and felt something shift in her chest. Not love, not yet. But the first recognition that love might be possible. Maybe. She thought again. This time it felt less like hope and more like promise. 2 weeks became 3. Autumn deepened toward winter. Caroline learned the ranch and layers fence lines that needed mending, cattle rotations, the economics of land and livestock. Emma taught her with patient enthusiasm, proud to share her knowledge. But Caroline watched David most of all. She watched him gentle a spooked horse with quiet hands and quieter words. Any thought. Watched him settle a dispute between ranch hands with fairness that left both men satisfied. Sadi. Watched him kneel in dirt to examine Emma's scraped knee, cleaning the wound with care that made the child forget to cry. She watched him parent with patience she'd rarely seen in men. When Emma struggled with arithmetic, he sat with her for hours, finding new ways to explain until understanding dawned, when she had nightmares. He rocked her like she was still small, humming songs Caroline suspected came from his own childhood. Then make call, and she watched him work, not with the desperate drive of a man proving something, but with the steady competence of someone who found dignity in labor. Hado. His hands mended fence with the same care they turned pages for Emma's bedtime stories. David Morrison was not what Caroline expected. He was better, quieter, more substantial. One afternoon, while Emma was at school, Caroline helped him prepare a section of pasture fence for winter. The work was cold, repetitive, but strangely satisfying. David showed her how to twist wire tight, how to brace posts against wind. You're good at this, he said, inspecting her work. Better than some men I've hired. A farm girl. Remember, I know fence. I keep forgetting you had a whole life before. He paused, gloves stilling on the wire. Do you miss it? Caroline considered Philadelphia the narrow boarding house room, the endless laundry, the gray sameness of days. No, I miss who I was before everything fell apart. But the place, the life. No. What fell apart? She told him then, words coming easier than expected. Her family's deaths. The slow erosion of everything she'd known, the loneliness of being the last one left. David listened without interruption, hands resuming work but attention fully hers. When she finished, he was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry, he finally said, that you had to carry that alone. We all carry things alone sometimes. Doesn't make it right. He tested the fence, found it solid. Emma's mama Sarah, she died calling for her. I couldn't do anything but watch and hold her hand. His jaw tightened. Emma doesn't remember that part. She just remembers her mama loved her. That's the part that matters. Maybe. Adichi. He looked at Caroline directly. Sometimes I think I'm failing them both. Sarah, by not grieving enough. Emma, by grieving too much. You're doing neither. You're living. That's what they'd want. Something shifted in his expression. Gratitude, maybe. Or recognition. How'd you get so wise? Loss teaches. I'm a slow learner. But eventually lessons stick. By that evening, Emma wanted to bake cookies. Caroline taught her, flour dusting both their noses, butter softening in warm hands. David watched from the doorway, and when Caroline glanced up, she caught an expression on his face she couldn't quite name. It looked almost like contentment. Later, after Emma slept, Caroline found David on the porch despite the cold. She brought him coffee, stood beside him looking at stars. Thank you, he said quietly, for being patient with us, for giving this a real chance. You made it easy to stay. Hey, did I? He sounded doubtful. I'm not good with words. Never have been. I keep thinking you must know. He stopped, shook his head. Never mind. Know what? That you're good for us. For Emma. For me. He gripped the coffee cup. But saying it and showing it are different things. I'm better at showing. Caroline's heart beat faster. I see you showing. Every day. He looked at her then. Really looked. And Caroline felt the weight of it. The unspoken things gathering between them like snow before a storm. Neither of them named it. But both felt it. Inside. The house waited. Warm. Outside. The night grew colder. They stood together in the space between. Not quite touching. Not quite separate. Good night, Caroline, David said finally. Good night. She went to her room, to her narrow guest bed, and lay awake thinking about a man who showed his heart through fence posts and patient arithmetic lessons, about a child who'd claimed her as family with nothing but hope and trust, about the way Not Unhappy was slowly, carefully becoming something more. Emma's fever came sudden in the night. Caroline woke to the child's crying. David's boots heavy in the hall. She grabbed her robe. Found them in Emma's room, the girl burning hot, calling for her mama with a voice that broke. I've got her, Caroline said without thinking. Fetch cool water and cloths. David hesitated only a moment before obeying. Caroline gathered Emma close, feeling the frightening heat of her small body. Not dangerous yet, but fever was never to be dismissed lightly. Hush, sweetheart, I'm here. I want Mama. Emma sobbed. Want Mama. I know you do. Caroline rocked her gently. But I'm here now. I won't leave you. David returned with water. Cloths. The same fear Caroline recognized from nursing her own siblings. She showed him how to cool Emma's skin without shocking her, how to offer water in small sips, how to watch breathing and color. You've done this before, David said, bathing Emma's face while Caroline held her. Too many times. Influenza took my family one by one. I learned how to nurse them. Even though... Her voice caught. Even though I couldn't save them. This isn't influenza. No, just childhood fever. She'll be fine by morning. Caroline stroked Emma's damp hair. But the knowing doesn't make the fear less. They took turns through the night, one holding Emma, one preparing cool water, both watching for any worsening. Emma drifted between fitful sleep and half-waking confusion, calling for her mother, accepting Caroline's comfort without quite recognizing it. Near dawn, the fever broke. Emma slept deeply, color returning, breathing easy. David slumped in the chair by her bed, exhausted relief written across his face. You should sleep, Caroline whispered. I'll watch her. Stay. He gestured to the second chair. Please. I'd rather not be alone right now, so Caroline stayed. They sat together in the lamplight, listening to Emma's peaceful breathing, neither speaking. Sometimes David's hand rested near Caroline's on the quilt. Sometimes their fingers almost touched. Sarah died of fever, David said finally. Different kind. But still. 1 day fine. 3 days later gone. He stared at his sleeping daughter. I couldn't help her. Couldn't do anything but watch her slip away. You helped tonight. You trusted me to know what to do. I did. Didn't I? He looked at Caroline with something like wonder. Without question. Without hesitation. That's what family does. The word hung between them. Family. Not arrangement. Not transaction. Family. David's hand covered hers fully now. I thought when Sarah died, that part of me died too. The part that could love someone. That could risk caring that much again. Caroline's throat tightened. And now. Now I think maybe it was just waiting. For the right person. For someone who'd understand the fear and choose to stay anyway. Emma stirred. Whimpered slightly. They both leaned in. But she settled back into sleep without waking. Caroline smoothed the blanket, acutely aware of David watching her. You'd have made a wonderful mother, he said quietly. You still could. Is that an offer or an observation? Maybe both. His thumb traced circles on her hand. I know we agreed to take time. No pressure. No expectations. But Caroline, I need you to know. I'm not just looking for help with Emma. I'm looking for a wife. Caroline finished. A real wife. Not just hired help in disguise. A partner. Someone who chooses this life. Chooses us. Because she wants to. Not because she has nowhere else to go. And if that's still true, that I have nowhere else to go, then I'd be grateful you chose here anyway. But I'd rather you stay because you wanted to, because we're worth staying for. Caroline looked at their joined hands. At Emma sleeping peacefully between them. At the man who'd given her dignity when he could have demanded duty. She thought about the weeks of watching him. Learning him. Recognizing the steady goodness that ran through him like bedrock. I'm starting to want to, she whispered. That scares me. Why? Because wanting means risking. And I've lost everyone I ever wanted before. Ada. David's hand tightened on hers. You won't lose us. We're not going anywhere. You can't promise that. No, he admitted. But I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure we don't waste whatever time we have. That if you choose us, you'll never regret it. Dawn broke through the window, painting everything gold. Emma woke slowly, peacefully, and the first thing she saw was both of them there. She smiled, tired but genuine. You stayed, she murmured, reaching for Caroline. Of course I stayed. Both of you together. Both of us together, David confirmed. Emma's smile widened. Like a real family. Caroline met David's eyes over the child's head. Something passed between them, not love yet, but recognition. The acknowledgement that they were moving towards something neither had planned, but both were beginning to want. Like a real family, Caroline agreed softly, and for the first time since arriving, she believed it might be true. The letter arrived on a gray November morning, carried by the post rider making his monthly circuit. Caroline recognized the handwriting, Mrs. Henderson from the Philadelphia boarding house. She read it twice before Emma bounded in from school, 3 times before David returned from the range. The words rearranged themselves each time, but the message stayed constant: another man seeking a wife. A merchant with established business, asking specifically about her. Mrs. Henderson thought Caroline should know she had options. Mail. David asked at supper, noticing the envelope beside her plate. From Philadelphia. Nothing important. But it was important. It was a reminder that she'd chosen this ranch from desperation, not desire. That her presence here wasn't inevitable, wasn't necessary. That somewhere else, another life waited if she wanted it. The question was, did she that night? Caroline lay awake measuring her feelings like ingredients for bread. Gratitude for David's kindness, yes. Affection for Emma, absolutely. But was that love, or just relief at finding safe harbor after years adrift? She couldn't tell. And not knowing terrified her. The next days felt wrong. Caroline went through motions, cooking, cleaning, teaching Emma, but her mind wandered to Philadelphia, to the merchant's offer, to the question of whether she was staying from genuine choice or simple lack of alternatives. David noticed. She could see him noticing the way his eyes tracked her distraction, the furrow between his brows when she startled at his voice. But he said nothing. Just watched and waited with that maddening patience. It made her angry. Unreasonably angry. Why didn't he demand she stay? Why didn't he claim her? Remind her of the arrangement? Insist she honor their agreement? His silence felt like indifference. Like her presence mattered so little he wouldn't even fight to keep her. Of course, that wasn't fair. He'd promised her choice, and he was keeping that promise. But fairness had nothing to do with the confused tangle of her feelings. A week after the letter arrived, Caroline realized she and David hadn't had a real conversation in days. They spoke about Emma, about chores, about weather. Nothing deeper, nothing true. She missed him, missed the quiet talks on the porch, the shared glances over Emma's head, the feeling of being seen and valued, and missing him made her question everything more. Did she love this man? Or just love being less alone? Emma felt the tension too. The child grew quiet, watchful. Her usual exuberance dimmed. She stayed close to Caroline during the day, asking anxious questions. Are you feeling sick? Are you unhappy? Did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. You're perfect. Then why are you sad? Caroline had no answer that wouldn't frighten the child more. Sunday brought church again. They sat in the Morrison pew, 3 people together but somehow separate. Emma pressed against Caroline's side like she was afraid to let go. But Sir Belbane said stop. David stared straight ahead, jaw tight, hands gripping his hat. Afterward, Mrs. Henderson's words echoed in Caroline's head. You have options. The merchant was wealthy, established, certain. David was kind. Yes. But did kindness equal love? Did gratitude equal belonging? On the ride home, Emma fell asleep again. David drove in silence until Caroline couldn't bear it anymore. Oh, why don't you ask? She said quietly. You know something's wrong. Why don't you ask what it is? Would you tell me if I did? I don't know. Then why should I ask? He kept his eyes on the road. You'll talk when you're ready, or you won't. Either way. Asking won't change anything. So you just wait. Just watch me pull away and do nothing. What would you have me do? Caroline demand you stay. Force you to feel something you don't feel. His voice stayed level, but tension ran through it like wire. I promised you choice. I meant it. Maybe I don't want choice. Maybe I want... She stopped, unsure what she wanted. Want what? I don't know. I eat sin. Her hands twisted in her lap. I just know I feel lost. And your silence makes me feel more lost. David pulled the wagon to a stop, turned to face her fully. Emma slept on, oblivious. What do you want me to say that I want you to stay I do? That Emma loves you? She does. That I... He stopped himself, shook his head. But none of that matters if you don't want to be here. If you're only staying because you think you should, or because you're grateful, or because you have nowhere else to go. I had a letter, Carolyn admitted. From Philadelphia, another man seeking a wife. Merchant. Established business. Mrs. Henderson thinks I should consider it. David's expression shuddered. Are you considering it? I don't know. I don't know what I'm feeling. I don't know if I'm here because I want to be or because I'm afraid to leave. Then take more time. I'm not going anywhere. But what if I never know? What if I can't tell the difference between gratitude and love? Between comfort and commitment? Then you'll have to decide which matters more. Certainty or trust? The words hit like cold water. Caroline stared at him, at this man who refused to make things easy, who insisted she choose freely, even when her choice might break his heart. I hate this, she whispered. I know. I hate that you won't fight for me. I am fighting for you. Just not the way you want. But David gathered the reins. I'm fighting to make sure you're free to choose. That's the only fight worth having. They drove the rest of the way in silence. At home, David carried Emma inside while Caroline stood in the yard, the letter heavy in her pocket, her heart heavier in her chest. That night, she almost wrote back to Mrs. Henderson, almost asked about the merchant, about passage back to Philadelphia, about escape from this impossible confusion, but she couldn't quite do it. Couldn't quite close the door David had opened. Couldn't quite walk away from the family she'd started to believe in. So she lay awake instead. Caught between fear and hope. Between leaving and staying. Between the safety of certainty and the terror of love. 3 more days passed in careful silence. Caroline and David circled each other like strangers, polite and distant. Emma watched with worried eyes, her usual chatter fading to anxious quiet. On the 4th day, Caroline found Emma crying in the barn. Sweetheart, what's wrong? Are you leaving? The child's voice broke. Are you going back to Philadelphia? Caroline's heart clenched. Who told you that? Nobody. But you're sad all the time now. And Papa's sad. And you don't talk anymore except about chores. Emma scrubbed her eyes. Did I do something wrong? I can be better, I promise. I'll do all my chores without complaining. And I'll be quiet when you need quiet. And I'll... Stop. All right, Miss Caroline pulled Emma close. You did nothing wrong. You're perfect. This isn't about you. Then what's it about? How to explain to a child that sometimes adults got lost in their own fear, that sometimes the hardest choice was between good things, not between good and bad. I'm scared, Aunt Caroline admitted, of making the wrong choice, of staying when I should go, or going when I should stay. But why would you go? Don't you like it here? I like it very much, maybe too much. Emma pulled back, confusion written across her tear-stained face. Aggie. How can you like something too much? Because when you care about something, losing it hurts. And I've lost a lot of things I cared about. You won't lose us. We're not going anywhere. Your papa said the same thing. Then why don't you believe it? The simple question cut through Caroline's confusion like a knife, through fog. Why didn't she believe it? What was she so afraid of losing them? But she'd already lose them if she left. Staying meant risk. Yes, risk of illness, of accident, of all the ways love could end in grief. But leaving meant certainty of loss, guaranteed loneliness, chosen emptiness. I'm being foolish. Caroline whispered. You're being scared. Papa says that's different from foolish. When did your papa get so wise? He's always been wise. You just have to listen quiet to hear it. Caroline smiled despite the ache in her chest. You're right. I should listen better. That evening, after Emma went to bed, Caroline found David on the porch. He sat in his usual chair, staring at stars. Shoulders tight with tension he wouldn't show the child. David. He looked up. Wary. Caroline, I need to tell you something. All right. She sat beside him, hands trembling in her lap. I had a letter from Philadelphia. Another man seeking a wife, and for days I've been wondering if I should accept, if I should go back, if staying here was the right choice. David's jaw clenched. But he said nothing. I was scared. Caroline continued, scared of caring too much. Scared of losing you and Emma the way I lost my family. Scared the choice to stay was just fear of being alone, not genuine love. And now I realize leaving would guarantee the loss I'm trying to avoid. That staying might hurt someday. Yes, everything we love carries that risk. But leaving hurts now. Certainly. Completely. David's hand found hers. So you're staying? If you'll still have me. If I haven't damaged this beyond repair with my doubt. Caroline. He turned to face her fully. Doubt is human. I'd worry more if you hadn't questioned this. But I need you to know I'm not looking for hired help or convenient partnership. I'm looking for a wife. A real wife. Someone who chooses this life. Chooses us. Because she wants to. I know. Do you? Because I'm tired of assuming Tired of thinking you must know how I feel when I've never said the words. He took a breath. I love you. Not just appreciate you. Not just need you, love you. The way a man loves a woman he wants to build a life with. Caroline's eyes filled. Since when? Since you held Emma through her fever. And I realized you weren't staying from duty, but from genuine care. Since I watched you mend fence and saw partnership instead of transaction. Since he stopped. Since I understood you could leave and I'd never recover. I love you too, Caroline whispered. I think I have for weeks. I just didn't trust it. And now I'm choosing to trust, choosing to stay. Not from obligation or gratitude or lack of options, but because I want this life, want you, want Emma, want all of it, risk and all. David pulled her close, and Caroline let herself lean into his strength. They sat together while stars wheeled overhead, neither speaking, both understanding. Inside, Emma's voice called out, Papa Caroline. They found her sitting up in bed, eyes anxious in lamplight. I heard talking. Is everything okay? Everything's okay, sweetheart, Caroline assured her. You're staying, really staying. Really staying. Atas. Emma launched herself at Caroline, nearly knocking her over. Forever. Caroline looked at David over the child's head. He nodded. Expression soft with hope. Forever. Caroline promised. Can I call you Mama now? Caroline's throat closed. She managed a nod. Tears spilling free. If you want to. I want to. Emma hugged tighter. I want to so much. David's hand rested on Caroline's shoulder. Emma between them. The three of them holding each other in the lamplight. Yisai. This was what Caroline had traveled 1,000 miles to find, not escape from loneliness, but entrance to love. Not refuge from the past, but foundation for the future. A man's word is his bond, David said quietly. My word was you owed me nothing. Turns out I'm the one in debt you gave us back, something we thought was gone forever. What's that? Hope, family, home. He smiled. Each other. Caroline reached up, took his hand, held Emma close with her other arm. Outside. Winter deepened its hold. Inside. Warmth filled every corner, every heart, every space that had been empty too long. We're a family now, Emma announced, sleepy but satisfied. A real family. Oh, a real family. Caroline and David agreed together. And this time. Caroline believed it without question. December arrived with snow and lengthening nights. Caroline had been at the ranch 3 months. The guest room stood empty now. Symbolic but unused. She shared family meals, family chores, family life. But her nights remained solitary. Her heart held carefully separate from full commitment. David never pushed, never asked. But Caroline saw the question in his eyes every evening when they parted in the hallway. Saw the careful respect that kept him patient even as winter drew them closer in every other way. She wanted him, wanted the full partnership they'd promised each other. But the final step sharing not just life, but intimacy required courage. She was still gathering. Emma helped without knowing. The child bloomed under Caroline's care, calling her Mama with easy joy, including her in every dream and plan. School friends visited now, and Caroline hosted them with competence born of belonging. The ranch thrived under their combined efforts. David's leadership, Caroline's household management, all of it working together like music. They were a family in every way, but one evening, after Emma slept, Caroline found David in the barn, checking a mare near foaling. She brought him coffee, stood watching him work with his usual quiet skill. "She's close," David said, rubbing the mare's neck. "Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. You'll stay with her until she delivers." "Yes." Caroline set down the coffee, moved closer. "David, I fall. Ordinal." He looked up, instantly attentive to her tone. "What is it?" "I've been thinking about us, about the arrangement." His hand stilled on the mare. "Caroline, let me finish." She gathered her courage. "You've been patient. More patient than any man I've known. You've given me time. Given me choice. Never demanded or presumed. Because you deserve that." "I know, and I'm grateful, but I'm also tired of being careful, tired of holding back when I don't want to anymore." David straightened slowly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want more than partnership, more than separate rooms and careful distance." Caroline met his eyes steadily. "I want to be your wife, fully, in every way." "You're sure?" "I'm sure." Alege. He crossed to her in 3 strides, hands framing her face with reverence that made her chest ache. "Say it again." "I choose you. I choose us. Not from duty or gratitude, from love. Real love. The kind that builds futures and weathers storms." David's kiss was gentle, careful, asking permission even now. Caroline answered by pulling him closer, showing him the certainty she finally felt when they parted. Both were breathing hard. "Tonight?" he asked roughly. "Tonight." He glanced at the mare. "She might foal. I should stay." "I'll stay with you." Caroline smiled. "We'll wait together, and after, we'll go home together." So they waited through the long December night. The mare labored and delivered while they watched, ready to help, but unnecessary. New life entered the world in straw and lamplight. Wobbly and perfect. "A good girl," David murmured, checking both mare and foal. "You did fine." Carolyn watched him work, love swelling so large in her chest she could barely breathe around it. This man who gentled horses and children with equal care, who offered dignity instead of demand, who kept every promise and never asked more than she could give. He was hers, she was his. And tonight they'd make it real. When mare and foal were settled, David turned to find Caroline watching. "What?" "Nothing. Everything." She held out her hand. "Take me home. It's 4 in the morning. I don't care." His slow smile transformed his whole face. "Then let's go home." They walked through snow to the house, hand in hand, breath misting in cold air. Inside, warmth and silence waited. Emma slept peacefully down the hall, trusting and safe. At the door to David's room, their room now, Caroline paused. "I want you to know something. Ikawatnyai. Real commitment can't be coerced. It can only be chosen." She met his eyes. "I choose you. I choose us. Freely. Completely. Forever. Caroline." "I mean it. This isn't obligation or arrangement anymore. This is love. My choice. Made from my heart." David pulled her close, rested his forehead against hers. I don't have fancy words. Never have. But I swear to you every day for the rest of my life, I'll make sure you never regret this choice. I already know I won't. He kissed her then, deeper than before. And Caroline opened the door, drew him inside, closed them both into warmth and privacy, and the beginning of their real life together. The blanket he'd pulled back 3 months ago waited on their bed. Caroline looked at it. Remembered that first night. The unexpected dignity of his offer. Now she pulled it back herself. Invitation freely given. Right here, she whispered, echoing his words from that first night. Together. David's hands trembled slightly as he reached for her. You're sure? More sure than I've ever been about anything. Outside. Snow fell soft and steady. Inside, two people who'd found each other through faith and patience finally became one. The ranch slept around them. Emma dreaming peacefully. The new foal, nursing from its mother in the barn. Everything settling into place like pieces of a puzzle, finally complete. And when dawn broke hours later, painting the world gold and white, Caroline woke in David's arms and knew she was home. Not the house, not the land, but this man, this child, this life they'd built from hope and choice and freely given love. Morning, David murmured against her hair. Morning, she smiled, content to her bones. Think Emma's awake yet? Probably. She's an early riser. Then we should get up. But neither moved. They lay together in comfortable quiet, learning this new intimacy, savoring the peace of certainty after so much doubt. A knock on the door made them both jump. Papa Caroline. I mean Mama. Emma's voice carried barely contained excitement. Can I come in? Give us a minute, sweetheart. David called. They dressed quickly, grinning at each other like children with a secret. When they opened the door, Emma stood there in her nightgown, hope written across her face. You're both here. She breathed. Together. Together, Caroline confirmed. Emma launched herself at them both, nearly knocking them over. This is the best day ever. David met Caroline's eyes over their daughter's head. It really is. And Caroline knew he wasn't talking about the day. He was talking about all of it, the choice made. The family formed. The future stretching bright before them. She'd come here 3 months ago with nothing but a carpetbag and desperate hope. She'd found dignity, partnership, love. She'd found home. Come on. Emma tugged their hands. I'll make breakfast. Mama can teach me pancakes. As they followed their daughter down the stairs, David's hand found Caroline's. She squeezed back. Promise and gratitude flowing between them without words. This was what she'd traveled 1,000 miles to find. Not escape from loneliness, but entrance to love. Not refuge from the past, but foundation for the future. Not duty, but choice. Not obligation, but joy. Home. Spring came early that year. By March, snow had melted into mud. Mud into green grass. Winter's grip finally loosening. The ranch woke with the seasoned calves born, fields prepared, life renewing itself in countless small ways. Caroline stood at the bedroom window, watching dawn break over land she now thought of as hers. Behind her, David still slept, peaceful in the early light. Down the hall, Emma would wake soon, full of plans and chatter, and the boundless energy of 8-year-olds who knew they were loved. 4 months since she'd arrived. 4 months since David pulled back that blanket and offered dignity instead of demand. Ibaha, or Bafirmai. Everything had changed. Everything was right. You're up early. David's voice, rough with sleep, made her smile. Couldn't sleep. Too much to think about. I. He joined her at the window, arms circling her waist from behind. Good thoughts or bad? Good? Very good. Caroline leaned into his warmth. I was thinking about the day I arrived. How terrified I was. How certain this would be a mistake. Regrets. Not a single one. They stood together watching light spread across their land. The morning ritual had become Caroline's favorite time, these quiet moments before Emma woke, when she and David could simply be together, without words. The mare and foal are doing well, David said. Thought I'd turn them out to pasture today. Emma will want to help. Emma always wants to help. He kissed her temple. She's thriving. You've been good for her. She's been good for me. It was true. Emma had taught Caroline how to hope again, how to trust that love could exist without inevitable loss. The child's easy affection had shown Caroline what family could be when freely chosen, rather than assigned by blood. Footsteps in the hall announced Emma's arrival. She burst into their room without knocking, as was her habit now, and launched herself at the bed. Morning. Can we have pancakes? Can I help with the foal? Can we go to town this afternoon? Mrs. Henderson wrote again, and I want to mail her back. Emma. David's voice held gentle amusement. Breathe. Sorry. The child grinned. Not sorry at all. But can we? Pancakes, yes. Foal, yes. Town, maybe. Aunt Caroline ruffled Emma's hair. And when did Mrs. Henderson write you? Last week. She wanted to know if we're happy. I told her we're the happiest family in the whole world. Caroline's throat tightened. Mrs. Henderson, the woman who'd sent that fateful letter about the Philadelphia merchant. The letter that had nearly driven Caroline away. She'd written back 2 months ago, explaining her choice to stay, thanking her for caring enough to give her options. Mrs. Henderson had responded with warmth, saying she'd hoped Caroline would choose the ranch, that she'd seen something in David Morrison's first letter that spoke of genuine goodness. She'd only mentioned the merchant to ensure Caroline knew she had alternatives, that her choice was truly free. It had been kindness all along, not temptation. Come on, Mama. Emma tugged Caroline's hand. I'm starving. They made breakfast together, Emma cracking eggs with careful precision, Caroline mixing batter, David setting the table and stealing bites when he thought they weren't looking. The kitchen filled with warmth and laughter and the comfortable chaos of family. After breakfast, they worked the ranch as a unit. David taught Emma how to gentle the new foal, while Caroline managed the household, supervised the hands David had hired as the ranch expanded. They'd become prosperous under their combined management. David's vision, Caroline's organization, both of them working toward shared goals. That afternoon, Emma insisted on going to town. They drove in together. The three of them squeezed onto the wagon seat, Emma chattering about everything and nothing. At the general store, folks greeted them with easy familiarity. Mrs. Morrison, Mr. Morrison. Little Emma. I had no more whispers, no more speculation, just acceptance of the family they'd become. Emma mailed her letter while Caroline shopped and David handled business at the bank. And next Ming Sa Bashir, when they reunited, Emma was beaming. "Mrs. Henderson said to tell you she's proud of you," Emma reported, "and that she knew you'd make the right choice." "Did she now?" Caroline smiled. "I'm glad." And on the drive home, Emma fell asleep against Caroline's shoulder. David drove one-handed, his other hand holding Caroline's, thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "Happy?" he asked quietly. "More than I ever thought possible." "Me too." The ranch came into view as sunset painted the sky gold and pink. Home. The word settled into Caroline's heart with quiet certainty. Not the house, though she loved it. Not the land, though it nourished them. Home was this David beside her. Emma sleeping peacefully. The three of them together, that evening. After Emma went to bed, Caroline and David sat on the porch in their usual chairs. Spring night sounds drifted on warm air, crickets singing, cattle lowing distant, the gentle sounds of land at peace. "I was thinking," David said, "maybe we should make it official." "Make what official?" "Us marriage. I know we're committed, but—" He paused. I'd like Emma to see us married proper. Would like everyone to know you're my wife-in-law. Not just in fact." Caroline's heart swelled. "I'd like that too. Soon. Soon." He pulled her close, and Caroline rested her head on his shoulder, perfectly content. 4 months ago, she'd been a stranger at his door. Now she was his wife, Emma's mother. Partner in every sense that mattered. She thought about the carpet bag she'd carried, the desperate hope that had brought her west, the fear that had nearly driven her away. All of it had led here to this porch. This man. This life built on respect and choice and freely given love. "I thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For giving me dignity when you could have demanded duty. For letting me choose when you could have claimed ownership. Raija. For showing me that real love is built on freedom, not obligation." David kissed her hair. "Thank you for choosing us. For staying when you could have run. For building this family from hope and courage." Inside the house, Emma called out in her sleep. They both listened, but she settled without waking. Their daughter, safe and loved and certain of her place in the world. "Come on." Caroline stood, held out her hand. "Let's go to bed." David took her hand. Let her lead him inside. Let her close the door on the night and open the door to their bedroom. Siro. The blanket waited on their bed. The same blanket he'd pulled back that first night. Offering comfort without cost, Caroline pulled it back now, invitation and promise combined. "Right here," she said softly. "Always right here. Together. Together." David agreed. Outside, spring night deepened into darkness. Inside, warmth and love and chosen family filled every space. Emma slept peacefully, dreaming of foals and pancakes and the parents who loved her. David and Caroline held each other close, grateful for the journey that had brought them here. 1,000 miles Caroline had traveled on faith alone. 1,000 fears she'd conquered to stay, and every step, every choice, every moment of courage had been worth it. This was home. This was family. This was love freely chosen, fully given, completely trusted, and it was everything she'd never dared to hope for, delivered with dignity and patience by a man who understood that the best things in life could never be demanded, only offered, only chosen, only cherished, forever.